A friend of mine really likes my voice and likes to hear me talk, especially when he doesn't have to listen. So I'm making this video for him and telling what he considers a mundane story so that he can listen to it and help him relax so he can not listen to it. I like to tell the story of how Walter got his name. Walter is my rescue dog. Uh, he was rescued more than once. His My aunt's friend found him in an abandoned house, as I understand it, locked in the basement. He's not super loud, so I'm surprised I found him. He's not much of a barker. And because he looks a bit like a Yorkie, they took him to my grandmother, who was, I think, on her third dog, trying to find a Yorkie that just fit her. My dad was not happy she was getting another dog because he had helped rehome the other two. In fact, he had one, Peanut, who is living in the lap of luxury right now with a retired woman. She takes him out, Peanut's a girl, out on the boat on a regular basis, and Peanut is a Miss Wendy's ride or die. So, or maybe Miss Wendy is Peanut's ride or die. So I went to visit my grandma one day, and I'm like, oh, who's this little guy? His name is Jake. He doesn't like old people. Okay. Do you want him? Well, I can see if he'll get along with my roommate's dog, but I'll talk to her. And the conversation was over. The next day, I got a phone call. Are you coming to get this dog? Hadn't even mentioned it to my roommate yet. Fortunately, my roommate was in the same room, and I asked if she wanted to take Imelda, her dog, over to meet Jake. And so fortunately, we had time, and we went right over to meet Jake. And Imelda and Jake had no issues with each other. But as we walked in the door, Jake's things were sitting by the door. His leash and some food, and I mean, all things we had, because we had Imelda and we're single women. So, we don't need food, leashes, clothes, bandanas, hats, or anything for dogs. So then we just knew that Walter was going, Jake at the time was going home with us. So we went ahead and took him. And when we got home, we decided that Jake just didn't fit with Imelda's name, because Imelda is Imelda May Barkos. She does have shoes, but not a full shoe collection. If you know who Imelda Marcos is, she is, I think, a prime minister's wife of the Philippines. I think he's a prime minister of the Philippines. And so we wanted Walter's name to match Imelda's. And my roommate was very punny. She loved to name the animals punny names. Like the dog before that passed was Sammy Davis Jr., because he only had one eye, and Sammy Davis Jr. only had one eye. So we were trying to figure it out how we could match their names. And so we looked up Imelda Marcos's husband's name, which I think was just Fernando, and we did that. We couldn't pun it because he can't just be Fernando Barcos. But then we found out their son went by the nickname Bong Bong. So for a short time, Walter was named Bong Bong, but I just was really uncomfortable with having a dog named Bong. And my roommate accepted that protest. So she looked up what bong means in Tagalog, and apparently it means wall is one of the translations, and I'm sure there's many, because bong is kind of a word that could be, and especially in Asian languages, can be pronounced in a lot of different ways and have a lot of different sound. So then we're like, oh, Wally, what a good name, Wally. I'm like, oh, but it's not very official. He needs something a little more classy. So I'm like, Wally can be short for Wallace or Walter, so we decided on Walter. Now, I've never seen Breaking Bad, but my roommate had watched all of it, and if you know her, of course she watched all of Breaking Bad. Anyway, so she decided that his name would be Walter Heisenberg, which I have later also found out that Heisenberg was one of the people who worked on the nuclear testing back in the day, when they had that whole movie about all of that just recently, and he was somehow involved with that. So that was very interesting. But that's how Walter got his name. My dad called him Wally for a long time, but I just call him Walter. But I don't mind if people call him Wally.